I remember watching your podcast yesterday, and you were talking about these like Soviet training materials like super training and transfer of training and all of that. You're very well read. Like, can you talk to me about that a little bit? What was your approach?
Yeah. Well, it kind of started when I first started getting into MMA because I started kind of late and like I didn't really start training until I was 24 years old. I'd already fought a few times before that, but hadn't really trained. Um, so I knew that I'd always be like a skill deficit, I guess, just because, I'd be going against guys that have been training since they were 5 years old, right? Been wrestling since they were kids or whatever. So I knew that that was just a thing that would take time. There wasn't really anything that I could. You can only speed it up so much, right? You gotta. There's only so much time you can spend on the mats to catch up with that. But the strength and conditioning part, I knew there was. It's a very pragmatic, like logical thing. That's not. You know, I was like, there's books out there. Like this is just a matter of, and I couldn't afford a strength and conditioning coach either. So, um, I just took the initiative and started learning it and then got obsessed with it for a long time and learned as much as I could about it so that, I was making my own programs and doing the best that I could. And then eventually got to go to West Side Barbell. And that was when I got introduced to the Soviet stuff. And before that, I was probably reading a lot of the wrong stuff. But because I
When you
kind of
say
thought that
wrong, could you elaborate, like what kind of stuff
well,
especially?
I don't really remember what books they were, but I thought, I got like my personal training certification, um, stuff like that, like basic books just from Barnes and Noble or, you know, I don't remember the specific books, but the point is I thought that I knew what I was doing
Mm.
until I went to West Side, and then I was like, oh, I don't actually know much of anything. And Louis got me on the super training first was the first book, and then of course all the other books, but that was obviously the main book. And yeah, just kind of took it from there. I stayed obsessed with it for a long time. And um, it's kind of one of those things also where I think you see a lot of like the Dunning-Kruger effect take
Mhm.
place in the strength and conditioning world, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and I think what happens is like the same thing kind of happened to me, where I kind of thought that I knew what I was doing. And then when I went to West Side, they understood the science very deeply, obviously. But what I realized is like how simple it actually is.
Mm.
Like, you know what I mean? So you kind of
Yeah.
like circle back to like, okay, I don't need to make this as complicated as I'm making it. And that's what happens when you read random books, and listen to fitness influencers, I guess, and
Definitely.
you
100%.
know,
It's
which
like the
wasn't around.
standard deviation, the meme, they make. They have the stupid guy in the far end and the genius, and they both came to the same conclusion always.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a cool. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And back in my day, they also when I was doing this, I mean, they didn't have I didn't have social media or anything, so
mm.
it was just the best I could do, right? Um, and I would say like I still had a good amount of knowledge, but when I went to West Side, I just realized like, oh shit, I don't actually know much of anything. And then, like I said, I just uh, deepened my love and passion for it, and I got I freaking love it, man. Yeah, I still do. But it's like again, it's like I think once you get to the end of the circle, it's very simple, right? You don't have to overcomplicate it.
100%. And I think with your very rich experience, what is it, like 30 fights or something, and you have the theoretical aspect, so I think your bullshit detector is much more developed than all of the influencers and stuff, no?
I would hope so. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I
don't you
have
think you can
30.
connect the dots a lot better, see what works and doesn't work?
I would think so, because I mean, I experimented with a lot of different things. Even when I first went to West Side, which was the first time I had a strength coach,
Hmm.
right? Before that, it was all just on my own. But I worked with Tom, who's the owner of Westside now. After Louis passed, he kind of took it over, but he was just an intern at that time at Westside, and he didn't know what he was doing either.
Yeah.
So we really just followed the powerlifting program, like the conjugate, what the powerlifters were doing,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of that didn't work as well as you would think, but
Uh-huh.
or if you would even think it would work well, but it didn't. It broke me down really bad, right?
Yeah.
Is It was the main thing, and it was hard to get in the skill training, and I still did, but either way, the point is, we learned through that, through the experimentation, and we both developed, a whole new sense of what we need to be doing.
And when you say that it broke you down, like as far as adjustments goes, did you sort of decrease the volume or change exercise variations, or what kind of adjustments did you make?
Um, I think the main thing was like lower volume,
Mm-hmm.
and more speed work,
Mm.
right? Because we started with the original conjugate system, where we're doing two speed days and two two max days, and then we basically later on we went to one max day and two speed days,
Mm-hmm.
but also lowered a lot of the volume, and we would do more. Um, out of camp, we would do even more GPP. So there was like a higher volume out of camp, but it was way less specific volume.
Mm. Mm. No, definitely. That's a big thing. Like, I think in a lot of strength training for combat sports athlete, in the beginning, a lot of people approach it like they would a powerlifter. Let's say 5x5s at 70% or RP 9, whatever. And most of the time, at least in my experience, we solve it by just cutting the sets. Like sometimes with my athletes, we just do one set, one working set, that's it. Some people find it comical.
Interesting.
Because,
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess when I talk about lower the volume, I mean the way we kind of lowered the volume was just like probably like less accessory work,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's where we get a lot of the sore muscles,
Yeah.
more so than like the larger lifts. And again, kind of add in more GPP, but I'd say the biggest thing we changed was like just more speed work,
Mm.
right? To create the better rate of force development, and to create a better, more fast twitch muscles, right? And help out that aspect of things. And then because when I'm in the gym, um, martial arts gym, and I'm doing my training, I'm doing that for hours and hours at a time. So I'm creating a lot of efficiency there and developing a lot of cardio there.
Yeah.
And I was also always a big runner, and like to run before and after my workouts, and so I would develop a lot of aerobic capacity in other ways. I think different athletes may be different, because a lot of people don't like running, or they don't like
Mm.
long sessions, or doing cardio and
Yeah.
air bikes and all that shit. Um, but for me, I never had an issue with that. So we were able to take um, the training at Westside and focus just on strength and explosiveness.
Mm. And that would be like the classic Louis Simmons chain variations with rubber bands at 60% or so, correct? Or
Yeah, we did lots of band work. Yeah, yeah,
mm.
that was a huge one. That was, again, twice a week, and but the way we would use it, bands or chains, or whatever it might be. I say bands were certainly the most common, but I come to like chains a lot more later on, particularly for maxing out, right, and
Yeah.
getting trying to push as much chain weight as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
really like that personally. I think because it was something that Louis had explained to me one time that I didn't really understand, and I'm sure you'll understand this, but maybe listeners, whatever, might like to hear it. But the way he kind of explained it to me was that when you're maxing out, like bench press is always the easiest example, right? When you're maxing
Mm-hmm.
out a bench press, wherever your weakest point is in the bench press is actually the only time that you're maxing out. So if it takes
Mm.
you like, 3 to 5 seconds, say 5 seconds, I don't know, 3 seconds to do a bench, like you may only be maxing out for like point one of those seconds. And
Ah,
then and that's why he liked us to use the chains. So you're actually maxing out the entire time. With the chains, it's the mechanical leverage,
mm,
right? Like you could, if you could imagine, like you could bench, if it's a quarter rep, right, from the top down, you could probably bench about 30 or 40 pounds more than you could touch your chest with, right?
yeah.
So but that's just because most people are weaker at the chest. Some people are weaker at the top too, right? Weaker
Mm.
triceps or whatever. But that's a general thing because of the mechanical leverage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're actually, again, wherever you're weakest at, whatever, because everybody has a different body mechanically, right? Longer arms, shorter arms,
Mm.
and asymmetries within the muscles and all those things. But wherever you're weakest at during that lift is where your actual max is.
Oh,
And
targeting
then what
sticking points essentially, or
sticking points?
yeah.
Yes, that's where exactly, and
Mm.
that's why Westside did a lot of um, the uh, the board
Mm.
presses. Yeah, damn, I had to think about it
Yeah,
for a second. Board presses, floor presses, different things like that.
yeah.
To learn how to work through these sticking points, and a lot of isometrics to work through the sticking points. But the point is that was the way Louis explained chains to me,
Mm-hmm.
was that your sticking point is really where the only max that you are actually doing. The rest of the time, some of your muscles or nervous system is going to be shutting off because it just doesn't need to, because our bodies are, I don't know, I guess our bodies are lazy, or
Yeah.
they naturally efficient, whatever you want to call it. But
That's
that
very
was kind of how
interesting.
he, yeah. And then he explained the bands differently, where it's about building up the kinetic energy and the eccentric overload. And the one thing that I really came to love about bands that I hadn't thought about before, um, was, at the end of, again, say a bench press, at the end, you naturally slow down, right?
Yeah.
And like we don't even realize it, right? We go fast as we want,
Yeah.
but we don't realize, like, because we have to stop it. So we're
It's
naturally
the
going to slow down. The
deceleration
band,
phase.
yeah, yes. And the band can remove that deceleration. So I found that
Exactly.
fascinating because I never thought about it, like I never realized that I was slowing down, but
Yeah, it's much more practical than doing, let's say, a bench press throw. It's a very awkward movement. With a band, you can
yeah.
just go all out, and it stops at the
Yeah,
top
yeah,
for you.
yeah. If you better catch that barbell, right?
Exactly. Otherwise, you're in for a bad night
Yeah, it's a
with a
bad
deformed
week,
face.
right?
You were also
Yeah. So
talking about running, or would you like to? Did you have anything else to say there, or?
I could go on all day, bro. But
You were talking about running and the Darren Kruger effect, and I can tell you, I was part of the person who thought I knew everything, like always criticizing running for combat sports and this and that. And then
Mm.
when time goes on, it's like, okay, these old school boxing coaches, they knew something. Like you're
Mm.
outdoors, running with your people. And same with Louis Simmons, like all of this, is kind of heuristic, empirical experience. I think it weighs much higher sometimes than the science. Like he
Mm.
knows things that you don't read in those textbooks. And I think running
Yeah,
is one of these things. It just has some subtle benefits that we haven't yet explained.
yeah. I'm glad you agree with me on that, because it's one of those things. I think there's a lot of things in this world, strength and conditioning world, but also just the world in general, where on paper everything seems like it should be this way, but in practice it's actually a different way.
Hmm.
And I think running, to me, is one of those things. But I also think there's a lot of benefits to running that you can't really quantify on paper.
Exactly.
I think like the meditative experience of it,
Hmm.
um, like being off your phone and just being bored for a little while,
Yeah.
so to speak. If you're bored running, and some people are, some people aren't, but being able to work through that, so overall, the overall mental part of it. But also, I don't think they talk enough about just building an aerobic base. Like there's so many ways to build an aerobic base, but to me, nothing has ever matched running.
Hmm.
And I don't know. Again, on paper, like I know jumping rope or shadow boxing. Jumping rope would be probably equivalent, but shadow boxing or maybe riding a bike or something. There's all these
Yeah.
different things. You could like literally keep your heart rate at say like the 140 to 150 range or whatever
Yeah.
for an hour and a half. And to me, you're not getting the same benefit that you are running at 140 to 160, which is like unexplainable because on paper you should be getting the same benefit,
100%.
but in my opinion, you're just not. And that's but I don't know if you ever had someone on that disagrees on with that, because I think that would be a fascinating conversation, because I'd like to always hear their point of view on that, where they where they believe because of the science and the papers all saying that it's not what's necessary. I'd be interested to hear that point of view, because I've heard it. Like usually it's like short clips on Instagram or
Mm.
maybe a YouTube video or something. But I've never really had it totally, someone that truly believes that, have it really broken down. Uh, I know there's like fighters that believe that and athletes, but I think athletes and fighters, most of them at a decent level are doing a lot of stuff wrong,
Mm.
and they're not winning because of their program. They're winning in spite of their program.
Of course. Yeah, no, we will get to that soon. But speaking of running, um, I just think very commonsensically, okay, if we disregard all of the recent quote unquote scientific findings, for the past 300,000 years or so as Homo sapiens, we've been hunter gatherers, right? We've been running all of these generations. So there has to be something to it that is just natural to us and that makes us feel good in a way.
Mm.
Like modern living, how much is that? Like 100 years since the Industrial Revolution, 200, 300 years?
Mm.
So I mean, there is probably something subtle to it that just hasn't been proven yet. And how the hell do you even prove it? That like there's too many variables.
Right. Yeah, you have to isolate 100 different variables, and
Mm.
um, yeah, I think we're kind of on the same page with that. It's just again some of the parts of it you can't really explain, right? Like just simply the discipline of it.
Exactly.
Like it's like especially if you don't enjoy it. Like I personally enjoyed it. I don't necessarily enjoy it now for different reasons, but when I was younger and fighting, like I really loved going running.
And that's the
And
biggest advantage, like the enthusiasm. If you enjoy it, you will exert yourself better.
yes, there's that part, and then but I was going to say, for those that don't enjoy it and they force themselves to go do it, I think there's a huge mental factor there on top of the other mental factors that are already there, just with running. I mean, but especially if you don't like it, like it can get boring really quick. Um,
Mm.
but there's also, I mean, a bazillion ways to keep it exciting too and keep
Yeah.
it fun. Let's challenge yourself, like the telephone to telephone pole sprint, right? Yeah, I mean, this is what
Exactly.
everybody does. And, I'd find a million different ways to keep my brain occupied, but those the mental side, I think, is probably the number one overlooked thing for running.
Hmm.
Um,
Especially the
but
outdoors when you're outdoor, you know.
yeah, it's a
Nature.
beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But I'd also had like just the simple steady state aerobic base. I think in a lot of fighters is not where it could be.
Hmm.
And
You mean
I'm
they
not
do
going to
too
say,
many intervals and stuff instead of steady state, or?
yeah, I think a lot of guys focus too much on the anaerobic and the interval stuff,
Mm.
and trying to get their max higher,
Mm.
and
It's
they
very
don't.
catabolic in the wrong period. It's extremely catabolic.
There's that, yeah, there's that, and the way that I look at it too is, a fight is a unique day in your life, on fight day, competition day, And one of the unique things about it is that your heart rate's probably going to be slightly elevated for many hours. And if your body's not used to that, then that's going to be a problem, right? And some people think like, oh, it's, well, I only got to fight for 15 minutes. Why would I do a 45-minute workout?
Mm.
It's like, well, you're going to warm up too, right?
Yeah.
And then your heart rate's going to, you're a lot of these guys, you'll see them warm up an hour and a half before the match, and their heart rate's elevated the whole time for a good, hour plus before the match. And it's like, well, if your body's not adapted to that aerobically,
Mm.
then that's going to hurt you.
Yeah. And probably a
You're
lot
going to
of
be
it is
tired.
anticipation and nerves also that contributes to that heart rate,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. That's going to be elevating your heart rate, your cortisol, and all these things. But and then the other part is that the no matter how much anaerobic capacity you have, if you need to tap back into that again, which you will, you have the aerobic is what creates the recovery,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know this, but in between those spurts, that's where the magic lies,
Mm.
right? Like if you can, just because you can sprint, I don't know, like you're doing like a 4.240 and I'm doing a 4.540, like in a fight, that's not going to make a big enough difference,
No. Exactly.
right? To that you're going to necessarily beat me because of that. That might, right, speak and kill, right? So there is times that might happen, but that's where the skills and techniques come in, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, if you can only do that 2 times, but I can do my 4 or 5 40 um, 20 times because I have a better aerobic base,
Mm.
then you better beat me on those 2 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Using the 40 as an analogy for maybe a flurry of punches or takedowns or something like that. And it's like, well, you'd better you better win on that explosive one that you got, because if you don't, then I'm still going to be in your face, motherfucker.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like, yeah, the thing with a lot of S&C people is that they look at what a fight does physiologically and they try to emulate that in the gym. Like, okay, a fight is 5 minutes, so maybe I should do 6 hard minutes instead and rest, let's say, 10 seconds lower. But just like you don't copy exact strength movements, it's the same thing with endurance. Sometimes you need this lengthy steady state to clear the
Mhm.
hydrogen ions from your system and all of that better in a faster
Yeah,
manner. And you know
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's very like 1990s thinking.
mm,
Um, the whole. I mean, we all did it as went through that stage at some point. I'm gonna guess that you probably did too, where we'd set up circuits,
yeah,
maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute a piece. We're gonna do a 5 minute round,
100%.
right? Or maybe we'll do a 6 minute round, like you said, right? Just we're gonna push it a little bit harder today, right? And if you can do a 6 minute round, you can definitely get through a 5 minute round or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, over time, I mean, I learned that that's not an intelligent way really at all. It's kind of like if a high schooler is writing you a program,
Yeah.
that's
To be fair, it can have its place, like if you're
sure.
acutely before the match, but then we're talking about like off season, off camp. These are the things that matter, if not even more, like you say, the steady state stuff that you do then.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I mean, I guess yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it probably does have a place. I kind of threw that kind of stuff out
Mm-hmm.
um, completely. And once I got to a certain level, so but I would argue that the place for that, yeah, like you said, might be maybe you're closer to a fight and you want to stay safe, and you don't want to be in the gym, for sparring or whatever, but you still need to get that high intensity in. So let's make it as close to a fight as we can, et cetera, et cetera. But I also think like once you've had enough experience and you're at a high enough level, Like you should know how to fight,
Mm.
and you shouldn't have to quote unquote emulate a fight.
Yeah.
And and what you could do is, well, probably like the biggest change in my career later on, the biggest thing I changed was in the gym, the martial arts gym training. It was a lot more specific things, right? So I'm working on
Like sport
specific.
specific things in the wrestling and drilling and grappling and stuff, or
Yeah, well, even yeah, maybe like just specifically a jab,
ah.
or just one specific escape, or so we're really trying to narrow it down to like, what are we gonna get the most juice out of when we squeeze
Mm.
this? And I would argue that the strength and conditioning side, we should be doing the same thing once you have a base, right? It's like once you have a base, like obviously you want to maintain the base. You can't just let it go, but you maintain it. But your time and energy should be spent. And this is what Westside did differently, right? Or has done differently. And this is where I kind of got all this from, right? Is like the first one of the first times I went to Westside, I did a bench press, and um, I had a hard time locking it out. And Louis like, well, you got weak triceps. You need to do more triceps.
Mm.
And I think it's the same thing we should be doing in our daily training in the martial arts. It's like, okay, well, if you're getting your guard passed right here, then you need to work that specific, isolate that, right? And again, this is where I think when you get into a higher level, this is what the training should look like. Always keeping the base, which is pretty easy to maintain once you get to a high enough level.
Yeah.
But then again, isolate the specifics. How do we? Because that's where we're going to get the most juice out of.
And this is exactly what I mean. Like, when you are experienced in the sport, like you are, let's say you're just a strength and conditioning coach, you just read the textbooks, you didn't do the sport for a long time. How would you have come to such a conclusion, you know? You
Right?
know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, again, I hope I've learned some shit from all this.
no, I definitely agree
All
with you.
this.
Like, I couldn't have said it better myself, like 100%.
But yeah, I think to me that's the difference between when you have a beginner, intermediate, maybe elite, or not even elite, but like high level and then elite,
Mm.
right? When like I've spent time training with very very elite people, and that's when it's like most of them, you're kind of like, hey, you want to spar or whatever, and they're like, no, I don't really want to spar, bro. Like I'm working on this specific thing to make myself better.
Mm.
Unless you're giving them like a certain look that plays into that thing that they're trying to make better, right?
Yeah.
And I would see it in the wrestling when I would train with the Olympic wrestlers down at Ohio State a lot, and so much of their time was spent like with their coach or coaches, and just working tiny specific things.
Mm.
And it wasn't just go in and wrestle the whole time. It
Mm.
wasn't just you know pushers, these shark tanking push. Let's get more guys pushing you hard. So they already got that.
Yeah.
So it's like, where can we fill in the little, where's the puzzle pieces missing that we need to fill in
Yeah.
so we have a complete athlete? And again, I think that's a lot of what's lost in the strength and conditioning and in the martial arts coaching world.
Mm.
It's all, and it's understandable too, right? Because like we're working, like I own a martial arts gym, and I coach, I teach some classes and stuff. So we have hundreds of people in there. And it's like, well, for 99% of those people, they don't, they're so broad, like they're so far away from needing all that shit that's what we kind of get caught up in, right? And that's also where the money is too, right? Particularly in MMA and fighting, there's not so much money, unless you get a world champion or two under your belt, and it's like those are one of whatever, you get the point.
Mm.
So we kind of get caught up in the lost in that broad sense of okay, everybody needs to be doing this kind of um, basic stuff.
Yeah.
And it is all basic stuff too, though. I mean, I think that's the. I try not to go on too much of a rant here, but that's the kind of what we were saying at the beginning, right? You kind of, I think as a white belt, you go in, you realize you don't know anything, and then somewhere around like blue, purple belt, you start thinking that you do know everything, and then brown belt, you start realizing there's actually a lot more to learn, and then black belt, you kind of realize that you don't know anything, but you also realize that the basics, the stuff that you learned as a white belt, was the only thing that mattered.
Mm. Yeah, I think like in any system, this, I think we humans, we naturally have a certain complexity bias, the more complex something looks, the more shiny it looks, the more we think it's going to be efficient. And with
Yes.
experience in any field, people always default into simplicity again. Like to give you an
Yes.
analogy, have you seen like the company Apple's logo in the early 90s? It was full of like details and colors and stripes, and now it's like this simple Apple. Like
Oh,
over time,
interesting.
everything just defaults to simplicity.
Interesting. Well, they say that's what true genius is I forget the quote now, but or the definition, but there's something about, making complex things very simple. And what we do is technically complex, right? Like you're doing
Mm.
strength and conditioning coaching. Like, so you're dealing with like human biology and, mechanical levers and, all these different things, which
Mm.
is complex.
Yeah,
But then, so being able to make that simple, which is why Louis was a genius, right? Like he made it simple. And um, same martial arts. Like it's a very, very complex thing that we're trying to do.
yeah.
And I do think that when we, if you look at like the greatest jujitsu athlete ever, right, Hodger Gracie. I mean, he did the same thing to every single person every single time, right? It was very white belt, what most people would consider a white belt style, right? Like very
Mm.
simple. And you look at the best wrestler ever, Carolyn,
Mm-hmm.
or really Saitiev, but Saitiev did the most complex shit ever, so that kind of
Yeah,
ruins my analogy.
yeah. Now they are
but
even talking
but most
about.
stuff, like
Yeah. Sorry,
if
sorry.
you look at like yeah, you look at like Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, he was a master of the jab, right? You look
Mm.
at you could go through all the sports, and there's anomalies. There's like Saitibs, there's Sanchez, guys like that, where they're they they look like poetry in motion, and it's like, and it looks very complex. Um, but for the most part, the I think the very simple, the guys are, they're so good at doing like a one simple thing. And even Mayweather, who's not one of the greatest ever, but he's up there. He is up there. Like he had one of the best jabs ever, right? And had
Mm.
some of the best defense ever, right? A very, very simple thing. Like he hit you and didn't get hit.
Yeah.
Right? The smart pocket room, the best Muay Thai guy ever, without a doubt. Like he had the best teep in history.
And I guess for you it would be the Thai clinch. And speaking of that, like creating or finding your own style, like how does that process look like? How do you mature sort of into one style?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I mean, I developed my Thai clinch because I loved Muay Thai and that's what I wanted to do. Um, MMA became my path because there was no money in Muay Thai, and at the time, this is like the early 2000s, like 2003, maybe 2002. There wasn't any Muay Thai shows around either, right? I mean, we had a couple kickboxing shows here and there, but even those were like amateur things. And I was like, dude, like, how am I ever going to make money doing that? And so the thought of going over to Thailand to make $100 for a fight is like wait, I got to spend $1,000 on a flight just to get there. I'm only going to make $100. Like it doesn't make sense. So anyway, so MMA like what was a simpler path financially. So but I always wanted to do Muay Thai. And that's what I love the most. But the beauty of the fact that I did MMA is what got me into jujitsu, got me into wrestling, judo, and all these other combat sports, strength conditioning, all these other things that I fell in love with and have learned a shit ton from. Um, I think it's expanded beyond, just being a TIE fighter, right? But I always thought that, to circle back to your question, which, and I'm on some rants today, I guess, but um,
Let's say whatever
the
you want.
tie, yeah, the tie clinch, I really started loving that once I started learning wrestling. And
Mm.
my object was to tie the two together, right? There was Brandy Couture was right before me, and the way that he dirty boxed people, I was like, dude, if I could do that with a tie clinch and have the wrestling, I mean, it's going to be next level. But um, I never really developed the wrestling like as well as he did. Um, I may not have, I developed my tie clinch to a high level, but not as high as I wanted to. Um, and how mainly like how to get in and out of the tie clinch because as I developed it throughout my career, finding ways to get into the tie clinch was always been the hardest part.
Mm.
Because it's a little different when you do. Because I did so much pure Muay Thai, and that's what I would get used to. And in pure Muay Thai, like guys don't just back out,
No.
right? Like it's easy to get into a clinch. Like they will fight you, they will clinch with you. And then when you get in an MMA fight, all of a sudden everybody wants to dance around and run and
Mm.
wrestle, do all this other shit. I'm like, are you just gonna fight me or what, bro? So, but throughout my career, I developed better and better ways of doing that, and it's too bad I didn't know, 10 years ago what I know now. So, but that's martial arts for you.
Yeah.
So,
And during this process, you find something that you're very sure is suitable for you, to your personality. But let's say you
mhm.
have some coaches that try to change you, like, no, that will never work. Why are you doing this? Like, how do you balance this out? How do you combat it? Something you know is going to work, but a coach saying no or trying to change you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always been blessed with good coaches. Honestly, like I had one coach that was with me through my entire career. Is Dorian Price,
Mm.
and he lives over in Thailand still to this day. He would come back for my camps only. But he's lived on and off in Thailand for the last 20 years. We kind of started. He started a little bit before me, um, but when I started, I mean, he was my coach from day one and was there at my first fight and my last fight.
Mm.
And he's a huge clincher. He had 40 or 50 Muay Thai fights over in Thailand. Fought in Lupini a couple times. Um, so, he was always a huge influence on me in the way that he was able to bring the Thai techniques over
Mm.
to America for me. And and when I'm here, I'm not getting the same Thai style techniques, right? Like
Mm.
it's very difficult to find here. But I was getting the wrestling, so he would bring these over. I'm getting the wrestling, and then he's bringing a Thai style technique to me. I'm like, dude, this is the same thing as the wrestling. Like we can blend this together, great. And now I'm really teaching this to my fighters and athletes, for the future now, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. They're getting all this that I was trying to figure out as I'm going along, and they're kind of getting it all laid out for them now.
Mm.
So the next generation is going to be sick, man. We got some nasty guys coming up, bro.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, you were into the coaching now, if I heard it. So you run a gym and everything, or?
Yeah, yeah, I love doing the coaching, man. It's a lot of fun, and I mean it's hard because I have to keep my own biases at bay for one, and for two, obviously, like I want to be the one in there competing, and that's hard. But um, there's, I guess, in a philosophical way of looking at it, is like the point of knowledge, I believe, and the only real point of having it is either to test it or to give it away,
Mm.
right? So, particularly in like martial arts knowledge, anytime some that I'm given knowledge, through whatever lineage or whatever sport or whatever art. My The only thing that I can do with it is test that knowledge, and if it works, then I give it away.
That's very
Otherwise,
interesting.
what's the point of it?
It's a common theme, all of these biographies I read of all the world champions and everything. It's like in their own fighting career, they're this conqueror, they want everything, but then they turn into like a giver in a way. They give it all away.
Yeah, some do. I think the more well put together human beings do. Right? There's a lot that don't too.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of one of the smaller things I kind of preach about when people talk about um, retiring and moving from being a fighter to being a civilian, so to speak.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, look, you got all this knowledge. Like, what do you even have it for
Yeah.
if you're not going to give it away to someone? And when I work with kids a lot, and we have kids in my gym. I coach a high school wrestling team, and that's when it becomes really beautiful, right? When
Mm.
because a lot of these kids, what we do a lot of times, we don't realize it at the time. I'm sure you do work with kids in your
Yeah.
strength. Yeah, so I'm sure you'll relate to this, and I think we kind of forget a lot of times that what sometimes when they meet us or come into our gym or start our systems or whatever and start working with us, like we are that fork in their road.
Mm.
And the other fork might have led them who knows where.
Yeah.
But we are literally at that fork in the road to take them to a better place.
Mm.
And to be able to do that through the martial arts knowledge, or in your case, like strength conditioning knowledge, and I think that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, and it's super difficult, I think. Like kids, it's an art form in itself. Like I even think it's more difficult than training elite athletes to some extent, isn't it? Or what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think it's a lot different. Because yeah, it's just different, man. I don't know if one's more difficult than another because kids are certainly like more receptive, right? They're more open minded, and
Mm.
they're not going to push back and be like, "Well, I do it this way." And if a kid does do that, which I've had kids do that before, I'm like, "All right, well, fuck off then. I'm not going to talk to you no more." Like, uh,
Yeah,
whereas
but it's
yeah,
all,
elite
they're
athletes.
making it playful, and parents getting involved, all of this story, like you probably have a lot of
Mhm.
stories in that regard, right?
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's a beautiful thing, but the elite athletes, they're just different because it kind of depends too. Like if I got an athlete who's pretty elite who came up through my system, it's pretty easy, right? Because they came up through me.
Mm.
It's when you got guys that come from other places, or a lot of MMA guys, particularly, like they train at multiple places and they're constantly trying to teach you their techniques that they learned
Yeah.
somewhere else. And I'm like, That's cool, but so that makes it difficult. But like I said, I find it just to be different, right?
Mm.
Where kids again are just more receptive, and you can kind of mold them over time a little more, um, which is a huge responsibility. So
Mm.
it's like on the one hand, I kind of like it more, but on the other hand, it's definitely like way more intense when I stop and think about it because this elite athlete or very some of the very high level guys. It's like, well, if I teach them something that doesn't work for them, or maybe I fuck up, which we all do, um, it's like he'll recover from that and he'll be fine.
Yeah.
The kid, it might like affect him for a long time.
Mm.
So I think it's like when we say it's easier for kids, actually, I think it's like to me it feel way like there's a higher burden of
Mm.
responsibility there. So easier isn't necessarily the right word. But again, I feel a higher burden, so I don't know how to explain that, but it's kind of two different things.
Mm. No, no, I
Like they would
totally
be,
understand where you're getting at.
yeah, yeah, because like they're easier from the sense that you can talk to them and they'll actually do what they're told and everything. But again, if I let my ego get out of control and I start teaching things beyond my pay grade, beyond my capabilities, then I could be, setting this kid up for failure.
Yeah, you were talking about that earlier, like not letting your biases get involved. Like, could you elaborate
Yeah.
on that? What did you mean with it?
Well, particularly with MMA athletes, I think that's where I was referring to that from. Was um, I'm a Muay Thai fighter first, and if I have a guy, like for example, I have one guy right now. He's a wrestler, and that's his strength. But if I try to make him a Muay Thai guy,
Uh-huh.
it's not going to be good for him, right?
Mm.
So I have to adapt to what's going to work for him. And he's a short, stocky, very strong wrestler type. So a lot of the techniques that work for me are not going to work for him,
Mm.
right? And this is also I see this in powerlifting too, and in
Yeah,
the strength community, right? When
everything.
it's not, particularly like I mean, I think the simplest example is like the squats, right? When everybody's like, you have to go to parallel, and it's like, well, this
Yeah.
dude's femur is fucking like way longer than yours, bro. Like he just can't get down there the same that you can,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the bias that I'm referring to, things like that.
And I was definitely suffering from it before, like in my early phase of the Darren Kruger effect, like 100%, definitely. Like, I always tell this to everyone also. The things I said years ago, like, throw that to the trash can. I've even ended up removing a lot of my content, you know? It's so much
Yeah,
new
that's a bitch,
information
right?
coming in.
Yeah, that's always a bitch, right? But that shows a level of self awareness too that I think a lot of people don't have. They won't take that initiative to be like, look, I was wrong, and I hope that I'm right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to some extent, if you go with that mindset, it's only me that's losing on it, right? If
Fair.
I mean anything that is of logic, I don't care if it comes from a professor or a garbage collector. If it's logical, like we remove all of the social human bullshit, you know, just
Yeah,
look at the logic of it. Then that speaks
yeah,
for itself.
yeah. But again, I think it takes a level of self awareness and
Mhm.
humility to do that because it's not easy.
No.
We all have our egos, and we all want to be right, and we want to be the man, and we want to be respected and looked up to, and
Mm.
yeah, we're all, well, not all of us, but most of us in this space that I mean you're referring to are like are ambitious people that see the fear of, oh, if I said I was wrong, no people are not going to trust me in the future. Now
Yeah.
I'm not that voice of authority or whatever, and and then you get insecure about it, and then you're
Mm.
not sleeping at night. Now your cortisol's up, and now you're putting on weight, and now your relationship's going bad, and you're not getting laid, and one thing leads to another, and
100%.
the whole thing turns into a mess.
But I also think you were pretty good at like seeing the reality of the situation. Speaking of endurance again, I'm only speculating now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
I think you didn't pedestalize your opponents too much. Like you saw them for what they are in a way, and this kind of put you in a calmer state where you're not in this constant tension, or is there some truth to that, or?
I
Like
wish there was more truth to that.
to give you an example, like you remember when you fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, like they were making him as this huge, you know, undefeated 40-0, and you said something like, "Ah, he's been fighting tomato cans. I don't care." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I wish that was more true than it is. You know, maybe yeah. I'll tell you, a lot of times I did have that. Like Wonder Boy was a great example, which I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, um, I tell you, there was a lot of times like I could name specific losses where um, it was I believe that it was specifically because of that. Like I put them up on a pedestal, I had respect for them, and didn't let myself open up on them. And Um, that sucks, but it's, it is what it is.
Mm.
And that's, I mean, God, I'm kind of dance around here a little bit because I'm like, dude, like, I don't know how deep down this rabbit hole I want to go, turn into a damn therapy session or something. But
Yeah.
it's like, like I had my issues too, believe me. There was a lot of times I certainly performed my best when I didn't have those issues.
I just want
But
to
but I
clarify.
did
You can talk whatever you want, like about whatever you want. Don't feel any
for
like,
sure. Yeah, yeah. It might not be interesting to me to talk about,
yeah, of course.
um, but uh, but my point is, yeah, I did have those issues at times. I really did. Um, Sometimes, well, again, my best performances is when I didn't have those issues.
Mm. Yeah, you had one point early. It was like okay record, but then all of a sudden like 8 win streaks. Like, what was going on in your training this time? Where did that come from? This sudden shift.
Yeah, I think it was just I just hit my peak, man.
Mm.
I was all the pieces were coming together, between the coaching staff, the relationship life,
Mm.
um, my focus was as strong as it had ever been. Just all the pieces of the puzzle were there, um, and I wasn't doing what we're just talking about, like putting guys on pedestals. Like I
Mm.
believe that I deserved the championship. I knew that I was the man, and just everything just felt right and was going the right way. Um, just firing on all 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's all it comes down to. It's like there's there's a there's a ton of pieces to high level athletic performance, right? And it's
Right.
not just what you do in the gym. It's not just the weights that you're lifting. It's not just the runs you're doing.
Got it.
Um, Again, it comes down to like my relationship was good at that moment. My focus was strong at that time. I was feeling everything. My injuries were good. That's a huge one. The injuries were solid. Um, the coaching was solid. My diet was on point. I was focused, determined. Just all of the boxes were checked.
Mm.
And then, before that, like they weren't all checked. And then after that, they were kind of getting checked and unchecked here and there, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just you got to be careful being a fighter when you talk about things like that because I don't. The last thing I want to do is make excuses.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but objectively, it's right. All of it, definitely. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I can look at it, especially now in retrospect, looking back and look at it objectively. And there's pretty much every time I ever had a loss, like I could probably look at it objectively and tell you the reason. Sometimes it was like, hey, the guy was just simply better than me that night. Sometimes it was an injury, sometimes a sickness, whatever, right?
Hmm.
I can do the same with a win. And you say, look, all the boxes were checked, man.
Mm. Definitely, I think also as you explained, as observers, we're always focused on the, let's say, the visible part of the iceberg, the strength and conditioning, the training, and all of that. But let's say life stuff or relationship stuff, or let's say sleep or diet, how much time you spend in nature, how you're feeling, like all of these things. I don't know if you've heard of this, but I'm writing my thesis actually, the master thesis on psychosomatic causes to injuries. Have you been into
Mm.
that or?
I've actually looked into it a little bit. I'd love to actually read your thesis or hear more
Mm.
about it.
Of
Um,
course.
'Cause um, as a matter of fact, what got me into that, um, I want to let you speak more on it too, but I'll just tell you real quick. But what kind of got me into that was I had read an article about back injuries,
Mm.
and and I don't think he was totally truthful in this article, but one of the things that he had talked about was like a lot of back injuries aren't real injuries. It's a real injury, but it's not due to like mechanical stress. It's due to like just simply anxiety or
Yeah.
overstressed
Yes.
cortisol levels, things like that, and probably sounds exactly like what you're referring to, and
Yeah.
And that fascinated me because I've had a terrible, terrible back for a very long time.
Yeah, like the stress aspect that you're talking about. Every time we're talking about stress, people think it's this invincible psychological hocus pocus, but it's actual physical biochemical changes happening in the body, like the endocrine system, the stress hormones you talked about. So that makes you even more susceptible to strains and tears. And then, let's
Mm,
say if you strain something, you have a extra catastrophizing personality, which some people do. They overthink
mm,
it. So the body becomes like extra high guard whenever it's reminded of such a context again, like a Pavlovian conditioning of pain, you know. It's
very fascinating. What would you call psychosomatic? I,
psychosomatic, yeah.
like
Psycho as in psychology and soma, like from Greek, mind and
S O
soul and body.
SOMATIC?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna Google that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
research that some more. Yeah, because I'm only speaking on my own experience here. When you talk about that, again, my back has been a huge issue that I think that may have played a larger role in than I um, ever really thought about before. Um, but also, like I'm sure you've heard of this before. Like you ever heard when they say your flexibility isn't due to your actual biology. So they're like, look, if we put you under anesthesia, like we could put your foot to your head.
Mm.
So it's not your actual physiology there, it's your nervous system.
Yeah, there could definitely be limiting factors or compensation mechanism or blocks that the central nervous system kind of instigates.
Yeah. So knowing that and we're on the same page there, then like I'm a very unflexible person.
Mhm.
I've kind of wondered if that kind of plays a role in the injury too. Like, because if your nervous system is already um, stopping like your simple flexibility,
Yeah.
then when you get into these positions, now your nervous system gets even tighter and then it creates the injury.
I
I
can
don't know
give
if
you an
there's a
example.
relation there, but yeah,
I can give you
maybe
an
you speak
example.
on it.
I had a back injury for 3 years myself. That's how I got into this. I went to every single physiotherapist. They would say the same thing. Back then, I was in Olympic weightlifting, okay? So I was
Okay.
squatting like 2.5 times my body weight and whatnot. And it's like every single person I went to, they parroted out the same thing. You have to do McGill's Big Three. You have a weak core. You need to train your glutes,
Yep.
this and that. And like, at some point, it's like, okay, I'm front squatting, I don't know, 2 times my body weight. How could my core be weak, you know?
Right.
Something was just not making sense. And then I'll show you the book. I think it's, where do we have it? This one, yeah. John Sarno. He talks about this psychosomatic stuff. And he basically said, like,
Send that to me, Ralphie, if you don't mind.
I will do it. I will send you everything. His theory seems a bit far fetched, but it's one of these things, he said out of experience. He said, like, when you develop pain or let's say an injury, sometimes it's your unconscious trying to like distract you from handling your inner demons or whatnot. Like, very far fetched stuff, but still at some level it kind of makes sense. Like, he goes into childhood trauma and overthinking
Mhm.
and, a lot of good stuff. And by reading this book, like, I used to have a scarf on my chair to, support my back or whatever because I was too scared. Like, instantly, there was some passage in the book, my pain went away. Like that.
No
Just
shit.
100%. Like, I sometimes don't tell this story to people because I'm afraid of being, like, not believed in. But this is basically what got me into this stuff.
Okay. That's fascinating. Yeah, you don't want to sound like all woo woo and stuff, right?
No.
Yeah,
But it just showed to me like the brain, certain pain education, like when you give it a new program, it lets go of the alarm system in a way. And this is a huge part of, the psychosomatic rehabilitation, pain education, they call it. When you learn about how the process works, other than only tissue related factors, it's kind of like the body relaxes in a bit.
interesting. I definitely want to read into that because I think yeah, I find it really fascinating. The it's just there's different types of injuries too, though, right? Like for instance, like I've torn ligaments in my hand from
Mm.
punching people, and I'm like, dude, like if I was the most non-anxious, unstressed person in the world in history, like it still would have torn the ligament. Like it was
Yeah.
an acute injury from, like the ligament could not handle the impact, right? So,
Yes.
but then, but again, that's a very acute, simple fix, and you get the surgery and everything, repair the ligament. But like something like my back, which has been a stressor for, I mean, 15 years now, I really have a lot of interest in that
Mm.
because I have to wonder if that doesn't play a role.
And we have to be clear with one thing. Yes, an injury, including your back, it can have an acute cause in the beginning, be it a ligament, a tendon, whatever. But the thing is, most acute injuries, they get resolved by a matter of months sometimes, 2 months or something, if they continue.
Yeah.
Like it's not structural based anymore, it's a neurological condition. Like your brain has learned to associate certain stimuli
Mhm.
with pain or environments. That is the difference. So it can go from
Interesting.
structural to brain pain, so to speak. Some people call it
Yeah.
neuroplastic pain, but yeah, that's another thing.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm have to. I'm look into that. I might even pick your brain some more on that because it
Of
sounds like
course.
you're pretty well versed in it. And something like my back. Again, it's been a huge issue for a long time. But I feel like every time it was injured, it was acute.
Mm,
It was just always at the verge of an injury, though.
yeah.
But to last thing I'll say on that, and we can move on if you want, or whatever. Stay on, I don't care. But it's finally healed up from stem cells.
Mm,
And I don't know if you've done stem cells or your guys or athletes or ever have, but I'm right now. I'm here to preach the gospel of the stem cell because this shit. This is the second time I've had a round of stem cells. First time was in my ankle. My ankle got injured in 2014, and I got 3 surgeries on it, um, and it was I had to tape my ankle every day. I couldn't run. My quality of life was down, and I couldn't like walk through the grocery store, or I
mm,
remember one time I was at a festival with my kids, and I had to sit down like every 5 minutes, and my kids are like, "Can we just go ride some rides?" And I'm like, "Nah, give me a minute," And then finally, after like I said, 6 or 7 years of therapy and surgeries and taping, I got the stem cells, and 2 months later, it's like it never happened.
mm,
And my back, I'm about 2.5, maybe 3 months in now from the stem cells, and it feels the same.
mm.
And I'm just I'm guessing like the listeners of a podcast like yours are probably the type of people interested in that stuff. So I'm gonna preach the gospel there.
Of course. Yeah, personally, I don't know anything about this topic. I'm not very well read, so, but
Mm.
yeah, it's good you share the experience.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, man. I don't, God, I don't even know. No, it's one of those things. Like I just wish everybody in the world could experience it
Mm.
because most people have some sort of injury somewhere, some pain somewhere, or something. And man, if they could experience what I have experienced with it, I mean, it's probably like like my quality of life between my ankle and my back being messed up for so long. I can't imagine what it would be right now without stem cells.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be able to train. I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd be able to play with my kids.
I mean, fighting career-wise, didn't you fight until you're like 40? So on the
Mhm.
longevity part, like you reached much higher than other people, right? No?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm in like the top 10 most tenured athletes in the
Mm,
UFC, and I fought till I was 43.
mm,
Um, yeah, and a lot of that had to do with the strength and conditioning. I think I was
mm,
always very adamant about staying in good condition. I didn't let myself go out of camp, um, and I didn't have tons of injuries. I don't think. just compared to like some people I've seen, like I've had 13 surgeries in
Mhm.
total throughout my life. But most of them were minor surgeries. My ACL and my ankle were the only two. Well, I take that back, and my shoulder. Those were the only three like major surgeries.
Mm.
My ACL and my shoulder recovered straight away and felt like nothing had ever happened. Within like 6 months, like it was like nothing had ever happened. Um, my back was really the only thing that was a limiting factor,
Mm.
and I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but cortisone shots just saved me through that.
Yeah.
I've had probably 20 or 30 cortisone shots throughout my career, and I would have had to retire a lot earlier had I not been getting cortisone shots all the time.
I'll send you some of the titles of the books we talked about also. I think you'll
Yeah, I
really
would love
enjoy them.
to.
Because
Yeah, I
the
would love.
thing is also, you seem very receptive to this idea, and this is very important also.
Yeah, yeah. I'm totally receptive because my back, my ankle was a similar thing. Like I was very adamant about the PT on both of them, right? And but they still kept getting injured. And
Yeah.
the same as like you were saying, like, hey, bro, like I don't have a fucking weak core. Like I'll go do 100 sit-ups like nothing.
Yeah.
Like I could hold isometric planks for like 6 to 7 minutes sometimes, and something
Mm.
like I think I did like 10 minutes one time on a plank, and I worked with like Dr. McGill, and he's big on the planks and
Yeah.
the bird dogs and all that, uh, I was like, cool, like I do plank for 10 minutes, bro. I do
Yeah.
bird dogs all day, and my back still gets fucked up.
No,
Like there's
Dr.
something.
McGill also, like, he's, don't get me wrong, he's an expert in the biomechanical aspects. Like, he has done some of the most impressive research on different angles and pressures on discs from this angle, that angle, but he's very domain specific. Once
Yeah.
again, pain is multifaceted. It's emotional factors,
Mm,
psychological factors, and conditioning related factors. And,
mm,
if you only go for your own lens of expertise, you're going to ignore all of this.
it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because I worked with him a lot. He's a great guy, man, and like you said, I mean, what a fucking wealth of knowledge when it comes to the back.
Mm.
Um, but I have again, I do his stuff still even today. I'll do the big three on the
Mm.
regular. I do think it's good stuff, but I've also added in one of the other people I've really loved was Dr. Andrea Spina with
Mhm.
the FRC stuff. I don't know how much you know about that, but that's been
Sounds
really
familiar.
okay. That's been the functional range conditioning.
Mhm.
That's been really awesome stuff for me too.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you've heard of like the uh, vertebral vertebral
Yeah.
segmentation.
Like when it goes together, kind of, or.
Like we do when you do like a cat cow, going like spine vertebrae by vertebrae versus like just one big movement. Like so his idea is to try to separate each vertebrae and move them each individually and
Uh-huh.
teach your body to do that. So teaching the muscle to work on each individual vertebrae. Um, and it makes sense, right? Like again, I think it's helped. Not totally sure, but it makes sense when the way that I was explained for my own back was a lot of times multiple vertebrae will kind of stick together,
Mm.
and then one disc takes the is the one moving, so that's the one that kind of takes the punishment, and it's usually one of our lower discs in our lower back.
Mm.
Um, so his kind of theory is, if you get them all moving, then they're all kind of taking the shock together versus, one big unit.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And I'm probably butchering that explanation of it. So,
No.
you could look him up, as Dr. Spina, Spina, FRC, functional range conditioning, and
I'll look it up.
spinal segmentation is what he calls it, not vertebral. I found it to be really good stuff, but it kind of the difference in the theories there was, McGill is all about, stiffen it, strengthen everything around it. You want your your spine to be like a rock, and your
Mm.
core to be like a rock, and everything stay there and keep a straight back all the time and have good posture. And Spina's theory is more like we need to be exposing ourselves to these ranges of motion all the time, but we also need to be doing them in a safe manner where, again, like, the entire spine is taking the load versus one disc. And he talks about the same thing, with other um, body parts also. But so I kind of, what kind of helped me the best was anytime my back would hurt or be injured, I would start with the McGill stuff, just to, like he would say, not to pick the scab,
Yeah.
right? So I would, put the Band-Aid on it, let it heal, and then as I was getting out of pain, start moving through the ranges of motion through the FRC.
Yes. And for such a purpose, of course, I think McGill's Big Three are amazing. Like, if your alarm system is super like turned on, you can't go to certain angles. So for the time being, these are great. But at some point, you need to start deviating into more extreme positions. And I think every form of rehabilitation with different vocabulary and rationale, they all lean towards gradual progression.
Yeah,
In other words.
exactly. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. It's a good way to put it. And because ultimately, for me, I was like, unless I'm paralyzed, like I'm not going to stop grappling. I'm not going to stop training. I'm not going to stop wrestling. Like unless I'm paralyzed, like unless I literally physically cannot do it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do everything I can to try to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And if I can't do it no more, cool, whatever. I'll figure out my life then. I'll just play guitar all day. But it's like until then, I'm gonna keep going. You got to get to the wheels fall off.
Of course. Speaking of wrestling, it got me thinking. Your Cuba trip.
Yeah.
I just instantly saw the scene of when you wrestled with Mijain Lopez. There is a clip of
Oh
the
yeah.
internet. How was that? Explain that to me.
Mihan is obviously a very special guy.
Tell me
Very,
about
very
it.
special guy. Um, he, God, man, that guy is an absolute monster. And I'll tell you one situation, like we're just playing around. I mean, he's toying with me. He could murder me right there if he wanted. But I remember one situation, like he grabbed my wrist and I grabbed his thumb with my entire other hand and tried to peel his thumb off, and I could not move his thumb with
Oh
my
shit.
entire hand. And I was like, okay, I guess you can keep my wrist because I'm not going to be able to get it off. Um, that guy, he would come in, and his warm up at he walked around about 300 pounds on average, and
Shit.
his warm up would be backflips down the mat and cartwheels and quarter rounds and just a gymnastics warm up as a 300-pound man. And he's doing Greco-Roman. It's not even like he needs to do a bunch of flips and stuff. Like, but I had never seen someone move that way that was that big.
Wow.
And then when he grabs you, I mean, I've never felt strength like that in my life.
I remember like watching a clip of his coach explaining like uh, in preparation for the latest Olympics, he was like, don't look at his age chronologically, like physiologically, he's not 43, he's like 30 right now or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I say he moves like it too. And he climbs ropes. He does all the training that the little guys do, like the whole team is doing.
Yeah.
Most places when you go to like wrestling camps, like the heavyweights will kind of do a little bit different stuff. Right? They're like, we're not going to make you climb the rope. Meehan does it all.
Wow.
And does all the movements. Like he'll do the warm ups, the somersaults, the rolls, the Granby rolls, the flips, the spins, the cartwheels, and it's just it's you can tell that it is just so natural to him. It doesn't. He's not straining to do anything,
Yeah.
and it's the
Yeah, it
same
looks
when
very
and it's
subtle. Everything.
he is, yeah, yeah. And when you wrestle with him, I mean, again, he's way bigger than me and 10 times better than me and all that stuff. But but it's kind of the same where it just feels so natural to him,
Mm.
where it doesn't matter like the situation. It's just very natural.
No, he has a very relaxed body
It-
language. Everything, you can see it.
yeah, yeah, it's very hard to explain because I mean he's just a big ball of muscle and, and technique and strength, and I mean yeah, it's a trip, man. But he's a great guy, you know. I mean, just a fantastic guy. We went and had some drinks on the beach after, and
Wow.
um, you know, just a good dude. Him and he at one point he got a little buzzed, and he I was about 190 pounds at the time. He grabbed me under my armpits, threw me up above his head, and held me with his arms straight out,
Oh
you
wow.
know, above his head,
Holy shit.
like just goofing off. So
Wow.
it was literally like he was like I'm like a little kettlebell to him.
Yeah, real freak of nature. Like, even in his, what was it, fifth Olympic medal in the finals match, he looked unfazed. Like,
Yeah,
I think he could even win another if he wanted to. Now it's just a question of if he wants to. That's the thing.
he definitely could. I believe it 100%. Yeah.
And speaking of like this, one thing that I've heard in Cuba, I think the Greco-Roman sessions, and even in I guess the old Soviet era countries, they used to pair up like heavier wrestlers with lighter wrestlers because the heavier ones they could work on technique, and for the lighter counterpart it would be like strength training in a way. Is this something that you
Hmm.
saw there, or?
I didn't go with the Greco guys really
Hmm.
much um, because during the Greco training, I did a private with one of the guys. He was about my size, so I wasn't really paying attention to what they were doing.
Hmm.
But I wrestled more with the freestyle guys.
Okay. And you also did boxing in Cuba, correct? Or?
Yeah, yeah. I did a let's say I was there for 2 months, and we did 1 to 2 sessions a week with the boxers. And you know, boxing is a way higher up sport for Cubans. So
Mm.
like those guys are treated differently and they're treated better, and it's even more cutthroat than the wrestling is. And the wrestling is cutthroat as hell,
Mm.
but it's even more cutthroat. And you know, it was kind of interesting. Only the only I, I I can't confirm this factually, but it appeared from the way I was in, about 90% of the guys there had gloves from like I don't know the 60s or something. Like these gloves were completely worn down. Um, you know, basically punching with their knuckles. Very few had mouthpieces, um, and a little bit of headgear here and there. And then what it looked like was like the guys that were either medalists or certainly like or maybe what am I thinking? Like the first team guys, you know, the starters for the Olympics and stuff. They had the actual boxing equipment.
Mm.
So as I'm sparring with these guys, I'm, you know, every time you get hit, you're like, dude, that's like a freaking knuckle. Like,
Oh.
and but it made me realize pretty quickly, like, oh, that's why they're so good at defense.
Ah.
Right? Like
Okay.
they learned real quick how to not get hit. And
Yeah.
it was the interesting part. So I also went to another town called Pinar del Rio, which is where Yo Romero grew up. Levon Lopez, who was a bronze medalist. I think Meehan might have grown up there. Not 100% sure. But anyway, so I went to their wrestling room, and it was maybe about 1,500 square feet, and it was a dirt floor. And they had the mats were so old that they had to, you know, the mats when they like fall apart from being wet and stuff,
Yeah.
they had fallen apart. So they would have to like mop the mat up or sweep the mat up into a pile so they could practice throwing each other.
Yeah.
And being that it was kind of a similar situation where I was like, you know, the Cubans are known for their defense, right? In boxing and in wrestling, right? They're very hard to take down. And I kind of thought the same thing in my head that when you grow up wrestling on dirt floor, you probably learn defense really well, real
Yes.
fast.
Yes.
So,
100%. And then
so that was
sometimes
fascinating.
box even outside, like on concrete. Also, like you have to.
Mhm.
It when you have like an urgency, it makes you do better. Like I think it's a phenomenon, like in psychology or some shit. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I mean. And And those guys, like they'll come to the training center there, the Olympic Training Center, and they're, again, I think the boxers are more cutthroat, but in the wrestling, I stayed with the first team guys for about a week, and the coach that I was with, he couldn't take it. He's like, we got to figure out a different place to go. Um, but the way that it was set up was the first team guys were on the third floor, and they had air conditioning, and they got 4 meals a day.
Oh
The
wow.
second team guys were on the third floor, and they had no air conditioning and 3 meals a day.
Mm.
So, like, just that difference there, I mean, that creates a culture. It's good and bad, right? Because it creates a culture of wanting to win, right? You have
Yeah.
something to fight for, but also there's a lot of like, they're trying to hurt each other in training sometimes. If you're the second team guy, you're trying to hurt the first team guy.
Mm.
Now he can't wrestle. Now you get his spot.
Like because they want to prove to people, kind of, or the coaches or
No, they
something.
want the no, they want the air conditioning and the 4 meals a day.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit.
Yeah, they don't even care about proving to the coaches. Like they're like they don't really care if they get medals, all that stuff. They're like, dude, I just try to survive, right? So again, it's kind of like pros and cons, right? There's some good and bad to it, but you know, it would also make them fight a lot harder. And if the coach could tell that they were trying to hurt the other guy, they get kicked off the team. So they
Mm.
couldn't do it. They had to be very indiscriminate about it,
Yeah.
right? So it was fascinating watching some of those matches when you knew the two guys didn't like each other and you knew that they were trying to really fuck each other up, but they couldn't actually fuck each other up.
Yeah.
And the intensity behind those matches, I mean, it's crazy, man. And yeah, so again, it breeds a culture of competitiveness, but there's pros and cons.
Yeah, and I also think to some extent, like, I remember reading some interviews, like transcribed interviews from the pioneer of the Cuban amateur boxing, Alice de Sagara, I think it was called, something like this. He
I'm not
said that
sure.
they would like gather household items or whatever objects they have to create the rings and the gloves and all of it. Like it's
Mm.
kind of related to what you're saying, I think. But this gritty environment, no fancy stuff, maybe there is some kind of good energy to it as well. Like you feel like you're part of a mission and you're gonna start from the bottom and get to the top or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, again, I think there's pros and cons because also when you look at America right now, I mean, we're doing great in wrestling,
Mm.
right? We're one of the top teams in wrestling. We're top three, right? You got Russia always, Dagestan, Iran, kind of the Russian states there. Um, you got the Cubans and America. I mean, we're right up there all the time, right? Japan's coming up really well right now.
Yeah.
But like we're always in like top 3 to 5. I mean,
Yeah.
like we're doing great, and our wrestlers, have very fancy training spots, and
Mm.
they're well
Yeah.
taken care of, and so it's like I don't think that there's a right or wrong way to do it, but I can see where on that same token, I mean, you got a place like Cuba, I'm sorry, that has what probably a tenth of the people that America has, and they have
Yeah. The density is
just
crazy. The
per
density.
capita they have better wrestlers than us,
Yeah.
right? Per capita.
They have a very, I think, developed talent recruitment program, like some of the best in the world.
Yeah,
I remember in the Cold War, the Soviet boxers or scientists and, let's say, sports organizers, they went and helped them out, with the recruitment and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, they did. Yeah, and then there's you can see a lot of the Russian style in the Cubans, and part of it's their style technique wise, and part of it's like them kind of being uh not real, like the American style, like the Gable style that America kind of came from. The Dan Gable style is like push hard,
Mm.
cardio, shoot, 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 offense, offense. Whereas like the Russian style that you'll see a lot in the Cubans now too is a little bit like, yeah, let's
Mm.
chill, let's get up a point and stall a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's like, but it's still very highly, highly technical.
Yeah.
And not all the guys are like that. There's definitely some of each, but That's kind of what their style was known for. And they changed. FIFA's changed the rules 100 times, right, to help the Russians. So
Yeah.
it's like, again, it's like there's a pros and cons to all of it, man. Because in America, at least, like, I think being more capitalist than those countries, like, it kind of breeds a culture of ambition and
Mm.
drive and things like that. And a lot of those guys you notice in Cuba, like, they just happen to be good at wrestling. It's not that they love wrestling.
Yeah.
It's not that they. It's not that this is like something they're driven to do.
No.
They're just like good at it. They're just like born athlete, and they're like, all right, well, this is better than growing tobacco or working in the
Yeah.
working in the fucking factory.
Exactly. No, and I don't know. There is something to the Cubans also, like some kind of rhythm, like I don't know, it's like their culture is intertwined with salsa and dancing, like they have, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know, I don't know how to explain it, you know what I mean? Like this is
No,
probably some generational thing, hundreds of generations like ingrained into their culture, which they apply to sports in a way.
I think that's absolutely true. Yeah, because those guys, at least again, I had a 2 month experience there, but
Mm.
in that 2 months, I mean, I seen those guys going out dancing just about every night.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they
exactly.
love going out and dancing.
And they did you even do boxing sessions with like music? Was it like part of the session sometimes, like this rhythm or pattern in a way, or?
I never experienced that.
No.
I don't know if they do that or not, but I never experienced that. There was
Okay.
when I was in there training, and again, I also keep in mind that I'm an American from the outsider, and
Mm.
um, I had my coach who was translating for stuff. I don't even speak Spanish, right? So he's translating stuff. I don't know what he said to them. Um, I don't know what they thought about me or any of those kinds of things. So um, I don't, when I would go to like the boxing sessions, like there's no radio playing,
Uh-huh.
they would try to take my heads off, and,
Yeah.
we had fun, right? Like, um, I think they're all good people and everything, but, just, I don't know like what they were working on, like what they were trying to get out of it, or,
Of
what I
course.
mean? So I don't have any idea really. I literally went, like, warmed up, sparred, and left,
Mm.
and then, well, I take it back, I actually hit pads with the coaches a few times. So,
Yeah.
and they would kind of teach me some things too. So, but it was, again, there's a lot that I kind of wish I would have learned a little bit of Spanish, because there's a lot that I didn't even know what was happening. But I just trusted my coach and was like, hey, I'm here. I'll do the work, and and I got better from it. So
Yeah. No, I think a lot of it, like in the end, why certain countries are better, I think it all boils down to cultural significance. Like, if it's very significant to the culture, like then the government takes the right measures and
yeah,
people want to do it more often and it filters out these outliers better. Like, if I would guess.
oh, absolutely, yeah. And those the boxers there are very well taken care of
Mm.
compared to the rest of the country, right? And the high level wrestlers are taken care of also. Um, and that was the other part of that little trip, was the cultural experience and seeing the way those people live, and seeing the just how blessed we are in America, man.
Yeah,
We got to remember that, like, it's a tragic way that their lives turn out there,
I can imagine. I can
except
imagine.
except for the few that can, the few that can actually get out.
Yeah, that's the thing. We tend to look with this, survivorship bias. We see one sports star, but we don't see the hundred of thousand of others that did not make it and all of that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's very tragic, man. It's almost kind of depressing when you actually are living there. Uh, Not that I didn't live there, but I was there for 2 months, and
Mhm.
then you see it and you start kind of getting used to um, the surroundings, and you know, you can just kind of feel in the air, man. Like, no, they don't have hope there.
I tell myself exactly the same thing, like how blessed I am, a first world industrial country over here, I kind of feel ashamed to complain about anything here. I can't, like, there is
Yeah,
a stop, like a block. I can't do it anymore in a way.
yeah, yeah. And, we all get used to whatever happens to us, right? We get used to it, and then we start finding something to complain about, though, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
For if we had like millions of dollars and Ferraris and stuff, it'd be like we'd be bitching that our Ferrari got a flat tire or something. You know, it's like it's
Yeah,
always something.
100%. Regarding the money talk, I think this is a very interesting topic. Like, combat sports athletes, especially boxing and MMA, and let's say financial literacy and money management. I mean, they are probably not the best in that regard. Like, with some exceptions, like what have you learned in your process when it comes to like, okay, your prize money and investing it correctly and saving it? What are some of your biggest lessons?
Mm, God, I don't even know where to start. There's like so many lessons, but
Yeah.
I think the so if I was just going to say something to like an up and coming athlete, like
Yeah.
maybe somebody's in the UFC and they're doing well, just remind them like it's not going to last forever. It could literally end anytime. Um, so the biggest thing that you need to learn how to do is how to turn whatever money you have coming in through your purses or through sponsors, whatever. You need to figure out how to turn it into recurring income.
Mm,
And I mean, I guess you kind of say the same even with like a regular person, right? Like if you
yeah.
got a job that you don't enjoy or you want more freedom or whatever, you got to take the money that you do make and figure out how to turn it into recurring income. And it
Yeah.
could be a business or proper investments or hell, even stocks like dividend stocks, whatever. I mean, there's a gazillion ways, but particularly with fighters, when they get a big purse at a time, you know, you don't know if you're going to tear your ACL tomorrow and be out for a year. It's like you you got to figure out some way to make that into recurring income. And I think the answer for each person is going to be different for that. So it's like it's where that's why I said I don't really know where to start because it's like
Mm,
every every situation is going to be different. You kind of got to find your own path on that, but overall, it's you got to start with how do I take these chunks and turn them into little smaller chunks that are longer lasting.
yeah. And I think there's also something too, like being an MMA fighter, naturally you have to have like a risk taking or let's say adventurous personality, right? Like not everyone has the guts to go
Yeah,
into a match. So I think sometimes that might spill over negatively to the money management as well, right? Like you're too adventurous with your prize money and stuff, or
yeah. I mean, look, this sport's not. It doesn't attract responsible people. Right?
mm,
I mean, if you're a mature, responsible person, you probably go to college or you start a business or
mm,
go to the military. Whatever it is. There's a million things, but get a real job. This generally attracts the poor people or people with no hope elsewhere. And there's also the types that are just crazy good athletes and like it for fun or whatever. Um, but for the most part, like the people doing the sport are not right in the head. So
mm,
yeah, to expect them to be great money managers, I think is a long stretch. And and even like trying to teach them, they have to want it first, right? Or they have to believe in it first. They got to buy into the concept that you even try and teach. So I stay away from that stuff anyway. Like
yeah,
but you ask the question. So, but it's like the sport is again, it's not the type of person that's going to handle money very well
yeah.
for the
The,
most part.
the ironic part with that also, I think, like I agree with you, but like all of these suits and ties and quote unquote educated people, like they look up to you guys. Like they're
Yeah.
always feeling like, I don't know, let's say inferior in a certain way, like always trying to
Mhm.
prove or using cuss words to say like, oh, I'm cool, I'm in your level. I don't know, there's something to it, like
Mhm.
that they're always trying to prove in a way.
No, that's for sure. Yeah. I mean, everybody. I think it's like our human. primal nature, right? Like we want to see the hierarchy and who the baddest dude is, and
Mm.
they know that they're not, so they maybe they'll try to compensate in other ways,
Yeah.
or they'll just be jealous of you, or maybe they might be a hater, or they might just look up to you and might respect you and say it's cool and know their place. But yeah, we get a lot of that, but that's that's where you get in like some other like deeper philosophical stuff. It's like I don't I don't personally let those that type of person really affect me at all.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I just live my own life and
Have you always
carve
been
my
like
own
this, or
path.
did you learn it?
No, I think I was kind of blessed with stoicism, like
That's a big
just
advantage.
naturally.
Mm.
Yeah, it was just like a easy thing for me. It's almost I've had to learn to be maybe a little bit less stoic, or
Mhm.
because I get kind of to the point sometimes where I'm just like, yeah, I don't really give a shit about anything. And it's like, well, you got to give a shit about some things,
Yeah.
which I guess that's not necessarily what stoicism is either, but you get
Have
my
you read
point.
the books of Marcus Aurelius, all the Roman guys?
Of course, yeah,
Oh, cool,
of course,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd say Seneca was probably my favorite one.
Wow. Yeah.
The Letters of Seneca.
That one. Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
we have the modern version, Robert Greene, or that's he also in
yeah,
Stoicism.
yeah. I've read those also, the Robert Greene books, 48 Laws of Power and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think those are as good personally, but
Yeah, a
yeah,
little bit commercialized vibe. I get what you mean. Like the Seneca ones, they are a bit more pure, timeless in a way. I get your point.
yeah. I think it's cool because like it kind of makes you realize when you're talking about the Industrial Revolution earlier and all this stuff that we have, and we get caught up in it and think that it's our lives are so much different. Where it's really the same shit, man. Like our brains haven't really evolved much at all, if
No,
any.
no, no. Like just go to any bar, and you see people with the fanciest degrees, the most quote unquote objective people, and like they're the same, they're susceptible to the same shit. Like if someone shoulder bumps someone and they
Same
kill each
shit.
other, like I don't know, it's like the
Same
stupid
shit,
part
bro.
comes out. Or the world
Fact,
leaders,
yes.
look at it. It's like a freaking sandbox, but in a grander scale. It's just people have nukes now and attack helicopters and airplanes, whatever.
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, that's just humans are humans, man. And I think we've been the same for millions of years, or however long, and it just is what it is. So, but that's what's cool about that stuff is, you know, these people figured these things out however many hundreds of years ago,
Yeah,
and it still rings true today. And I think that's the most beautiful stuff. When you realize like there's nothing new to learn really.
no.
At least when I'm talking about philosophical shit.
No, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. Like, our science has improved, like the, let's say, methodology stuff, but the
Yeah,
core of it, they all lean towards the same thing. The Greeks from 3,000 years ago and our modern philosopher, we have the Germans, it all leans to the same thing.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it's all the meaning of life is still the same as it was for them, right? And
Mm,
what creates peace in our lives is still the same, and what creates happiness in our lives is still the same, and the stressors are still the same, even though they're just in different forms nowadays. And
yeah,
I think the only major difference, when we talk even when we talk about technology stuff, like the only major difference is that we just live longer today.
yeah.
So it's like we got a lot more years of shit to deal with.
I might even argue, okay, sure, we're not gonna get our villages burned or get a sword in our gut today, but to some extent, I even think we have even more stressors today. The connectivity
Yeah.
and social media and
Mhm.
bombardment, comparisons, the traveling bullshit. You have to see this island, that island, and I don't know,
Mhm.
it's a shit show.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why I say it's the same, right? Like hasn't really changed. Just the stimuluses may have
Yeah,
changed, but the actual stressors and relaxers, on both sides are still the same.
Mm.
Like still sitting out by a fire. That's why people go camping all the time, right? Like just sitting out by a fire at night is still like the most relaxing thing you can do.
Yeah. And
Like
back to
just
the
as it was.
simplicity arguments that we talked about. Like, why
Exactly.
overcomplicate it?
Exactly. Yeah. Circle it all the way back to the beginning. Yeah. It's like all this simple shit is still the fucking same, man.
Yeah. Okay, you have a $40 million mansion and 10 sports cars. Are you gonna stay inside that like empty house with 20 rooms, or are you gonna go to the fire with your homies? You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right. I like to think I'd be the guy going to the fire, but I'd like to think that I'm not the guy that would have a mansion with 40 rooms, but I haven't been in that situation. I make that choice, so I can't say.
yeah,
I hope I come across that situation. My dad used to say something when I was a kid, and he said, "Yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, but being broke doesn't buy shit. So go make some money
yeah,
and and then figure it out."
yeah, yeah. If we have the choice, of course, that's
Yeah,
only the preferable.
yeah, yeah. So it's like the happiness shit we can all figure out. And I know some very wealthy people, and they'll say, even there's been studies about it, right? And they say, well, like, once you reach a certain threshold, your happiness level pretty much plateaus, and um, but I think that level is like different for everyone too. Like some people are very happy with little, and some people are happy with a lot.
Yeah. We were talking a bit about like social media, and you were talking about like stoicism and not caring too much about the noise and stuff. I think a problem for a lot of athletes, is all of the shit talking, the media reports and messaging. Like, to some, it gets to them. Like, how did you deal with all of that stuff? Was it all like tunnel vision? It didn't get to you, or?
Um, yeah, like I said, I never really thought about social media until it was probably later than I should have.
Mm.
Like, but I don't know. It never really phased me that much. Like, I'm kind of, I'm just like blessed with stoicism, I guess, so to speak. But like, people talk shit online, it doesn't really bother me.
Mm.
Um, I'm pretty like secure like that, I guess. And um, there's not, I don't know. I guess it's a hard answer because I'm like, there's nothing I really had to handle. Like I post like pretty regularly, and it's like if someone says some stupid shit, I'm like, okay. If someone says cool shit, I'm like, hell yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I haven't really put a lot of thought into it. Like, I probably should put more thought into it. I'd probably make money or something on social media, but I don't really think about it that much. It's just kind of one of those things that's there. And I really like my social media. I like sitting down, you know, at night before I go to bed or something. I scroll through my feed, whatever. It's all fucking positive shit, man. I've curated my feed where it's very positive, and
Mm.
like it makes me feel good to go through it. Um, or if I wake up in the morning, I don't wake up and get on my phone. But maybe I'll sit down, and have some breakfast, put on my phone, scroll through the feed, whatever. And like it's like positivity, man. Like
Yeah.
all you gotta do is like curate the feed. Like it's there to, you follow who you follow, block who you block, and it really bugs me. Like, or I don't know, it doesn't bug me, but I guess it throws me off when people are like, social media is so negative. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, who the fuck are you following, bro? Like, what's so negative? Like, if it's negative, like, block it. Like,
Yeah.
you can literally design it how you want to.
Yeah. That's a
So
good
to me,
point.
I think it's been a beautiful thing, man. I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah, and a little bit guilty as charged. Like, I'm one of these people bitching about social media sometimes, even though I use it ironically. But yeah, I guess I should adopt that view that you're talking about.
I think it can be such a great thing.
Mm.
Like I can go on, I hear things that I never thought of, or different, little podcast clips, or just information that I would have never thought of or never heard. And some people have these great, like I've learned so much about peptides
Yeah.
because of social media. Like I would never got all this info without it. Um,
I think
or even
definitely it's very good for to introduce you to a new topic. The only
yeah.
thing that I dislike about social media is that creators, including myself, we are forced to sort of condense a complex topic into like this reptile brain, 10 seconds, hook and catch and all of that shit, to get the
Mm,
algorithm working, because I know we have to make money also. We have to sell programs and services.
yeah.
So I wish I could like go more elaborate, like make a 4-minute clip, but I know it's not gonna get engagement because it's too boring.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, I don't understand like the whole how to get engagement, or like I don't know how that shit works, or like algorithms and hacking all that stuff or whatever. And I've never looked into it, and like
Mm,
I've never done like any posts like just for money, or I mean I guess like I've been paid to do posts, but like
yeah.
I never like made one like, this is how I'm gonna make money doing
Yeah.
this. And so I again, I truly like don't even understand that whole side of social media. I don't even, hell, maybe you could explain to me how you even make money doing this shit. Like, but I don't know anything about that. It's like I literally just see it as like a positive thing,
Yeah.
that I can input into my brain, like a lot of positivity and a way to communicate with the world.
I can tell you what I believe will happen in the future. Like, your way is probably gonna be the main way soon, because right now it's so much, scripted everything, so much like
Mm,
casino bling blings and effects, and like someone just sitting in front of a camera just talking whatever they feel like talking. I think we're gonna want that in the future.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I know a lot of people like I'll see it. It'll come like things like that'll come up on my feed every now and then, like what they expect social media to be like, or how to do this. Like I just scroll right past it. I don't give a shit. I'm just like, but I think it's like one of the that kind of bring up a little topic. And maybe we'll like end with this because I do got to roll sometime soon. But um, it's like a blessing and curse of mine. Is like as a fighter, for instance, they talk about how we have all this discipline.
Mm.
And one thing I realized when I'm retired is like I actually don't have any discipline, right? Like I run a business, I run a gym, and I got a couple other businesses too. And like I really suck at running them. I have great people around me that help me run, unfortunately, but because I don't really have discipline. And but I brought that up because we're talking about the social media. Like I just do what I want to do,
So you're
and
more
when I'm
guided by
like motive,
enthusiasm, you mean, or?
exactly, like when I'm motivated to do something, like I just do it.
I'm the same way,
Um,
I would say. I'm very lazy too.
and yeah, and I think a lot of people are, especially in our space. I think in this whole lifting or working out, fitness, martial arts world, like that's just the type of people we are, right?
Yeah.
I don't think as many um, athletes and even lifters and um, our bodybuilders. I don't think none of us have the discipline that people act like we have.
No, I agree with you. I don't believe that talk either all the time when they say it. It's all about discipline, doing something
Yeah,
daily. It's like human factors are gonna get to you. We all have a human breaking point.
yeah, and what also discipline kind of implies that there's something pulling us away from doing it.
Mm,
That there's something that we have to fight against to go do it.
yeah.
But like to do my accounting, like takes fucking discipline. And guess what? My accounting sucks. Like it's always behind. I'm always like I pay my credit cards late. I freaking have overdraft bills or overdraft fees all the time. Like my taxes are penalized because they're late. You know what I mean? Like all this sucks. Now if I had discipline, that wouldn't happen. But I
Mm,
don't want to do it. So it's like eventually I'm like, okay, I can't pay no more fees, so I have to get this done. Right.
yeah.
But going to the gym or going back to where we're talking about social media, like I enjoy doing that.
Hmm.
So I just do what I enjoy, and then I don't have to worry about everything else, right?
Yeah.
Now I know I can also be honest about it. Like I'm blessed that I have done a lot of hard things, but there were never things that I didn't want to do, right? But I've done a lot of very difficult things that not the average person could do to be able to get to, financially a situation where I don't have to force myself to do things that I
Yeah.
don't want to do. Right. So I understand that, that's different, that a lot of people won't relate to that. But I think that's like the beautiful part of life. I think like discipline sucks.
Yeah.
People talk about discipline all the time and how it's necessary. Like, dude, like discipline fucking sucks, man. Like if you live your life like some disciplined life, and it's going completely counter to what, like Musashi is like my guy, right? Like I've read all his shit. I got him tattooed on my arm, and
The Book
I
of
got his
12 Rings.
quotes all over. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Book of Five Rings,
Oh,
and
5 Rings. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, or the Dokudo, all this stuff, and but like he talked about discipline a lot, but so I'm kind of like going against kind of my own little world of belief, but it's like, do you really want to live that way where you're like forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do all the time?
What a bad fucking way to spend your time. I mean, if you
Exactly,
only have
right?
one life to live.
Exactly, and now you also have the other side of the token, like the discipline equals freedom shit too, like Jocko talks about. But again, I don't know. I don't think like you necessarily have to go through that if what you're motivated to do is like good, valuable things, right? If you're just motivated to like play video games and sit on your ass and eat Cheetos, yeah, maybe you need some fucking discipline. But I've been blessed that I don't know everything I do, like I'm motivated to do good things for myself. And
Yeah.
and again, we're talking about social media. It's like the social media has been a great thing for me, and I'm motivated to do it. And that's why like I even post stuff, because like it brings joy to my life and brings positivity to me.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, also when speaking of discipline, people always say laziness, the opposite, I guess, of it is a bad thing. But think about it. And lazy people, they usually find more efficient solutions to certain things. Let's say,
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah.
no, no, I mean, let's say you have like a fight plan or whatever. Like, I don't know, you're a wrestler and you're against a striker. Like, the lazy way would be to go for the takedown, right? But it's also the more efficient way. Like, as a simple analogy, there's more factors to it, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
and if you have someone lazy and intelligent, like that's the best combination, I think. Those are the CEOs and everything. Like otherwise, they could also be fucking laying cement here and there, or collecting garbage, or cleaning floors, whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's probably most of technology has probably been created from laziness, right?
Yeah, I think it's in our nature in a way.
Like we got these. Have you seen these AI robots that they got now that are gonna like clean your house and shit?
Yeah, I've seen it, especially in China and all of that. Like they're getting into
Yeah.
society now.
I'm like, I want to buy one of those so bad. Like I'm totally going to be contributing to the end of humanity, and you know the the robots taking over and
Yeah.
Total Recall or Terminator and all that shit. But
I mean,
I
the
still
thing
want one.
is,
Just
yeah, it's an opportunity cost not to have it. Like fucking chat GTP. I can't go a day without it now. Those chatbots and
mm,
everything. They make everything easier. Like, why would I not use them and put manual labor into something? Like, it's just gonna eat away my life, in a way.
right, right. Yeah, I got to learn this Chat GPT stuff. Everybody keeps telling me all about it. I got to check it out.
Man, it's a lifesaver. I know, like, we're not on maybe on the best trajectory technology wise, but it's too late to not use it.
Yeah, I can't worry about the trajectory, man. We gotta do what we gotta do
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. But
till it's too late.
would you say you're more into like the business side of things now when it comes to your like do you sell courses or share videos or podcasts or stuff like this also now, or?
No, I mean I have my own podcast and I do like a podcast with for MMA fighting.
Mhm.
Um, that's basically about it. I don't really have courses I sell or anything. Like I've kind of looked into it. I said before, like I just again, it's one of those. Maybe if I was disciplined, I would actually do that shit.
Mm,
But I don't really enjoy it. Like
yeah,
I like working with people in person,
yeah,
and I like seeing someone in front of me and sweating. I like being in the trenches, man. And uh, so the course thing like doesn't really motivate me, and I've kind of like started to do them a few times. I guess I got some videos on dynamic striking, which is like BJJ Fanatics for striking. Um, and even those, I mean, I made a decent amount of money with them, but I had to like force myself to do them.
One thing I would love out of you is a book biography, like that you have to do. Like you have experience
So
with.
I'm actually working on that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I got a writer, and I'm glad you reminded me.
that's great.
We've been working on it for like over a year, and I got a call to do the interviews, and so you can write all this stuff down, and I forget all the time.
Yeah, no,
It's
this is important.
it should what should have taken, maybe 4 or 5 months has been over a year now because I'm not very good about keeping up with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you get someone to outsource all of the boring shit for you, like, and you just tell your story, I think it would do very good. Like, I mean,
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah,
you've done all of the S&C, you've been to Cuba, like, the experience, I think it's unmatched, in the MMA world.
I hope so. We'll see because I will get on the book. You just remind me, so I will after we get off here. I'll send him a text
Yeah.
and get back on it. You just reminded me to get back on it.
I will be the first to read it. I recently read
Let's
the
go.
Andre Ward's autobiography. That was very interesting. The boxer.
Yeah, I've heard that's a real good one. I'll check it out.
He's also one of these very, cognitive fighters, thinks things through and
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah, I'll definitely have to check that one out.
And then we're back to the what we talked about before. What was it? Like working on specific things, weaknesses to get the cheapest path to whatever you're after. I think not all. Am I mistaken to believe that not all fighters think when they are fighting?
What do you mean?
Like, when you're in there, some fighters are very autopilot, just on instinct, while some fighters, they're actually thinking things, like they're conscious.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I can always speak on myself, right? I can't, I can't really tell what other people are doing, and I can speak on myself and what I've heard others say, but I also think that there's a lot of things that happen in a fight that we think happened that didn't happen,
Mm,
or we think that we thought that we didn't actually think, or we kind of have a view of all these things that may or may not be totally true.
mm,
Um, but I think it's like both, right? For me personally, like I would kind of come in and out of it. You'd be in a flow state or whatever, and then you'd have little spurts of thoughts,
mm,
right? And hopefully those don't last too long, but hopefully they're very powerful when they're there, right? And you know, and, you might be thinking like, okay, I have to figure out a way to pressure him more, or you might tell yourself like some positive self talk type stuff, or you might be like okay, like he just kicked that leg 3 times. I'm gonna have to do something about it next time. So I guess there's some, but what we kind of want to get to is use that as a path to create a flow state. Like we want to get through the conscious thought, use that kind of judiciously so we can get to the flow state and not be thinking about anything.
yeah. And on that regard, I know this is kind of open to interpretation, this term, but mindfulness.
Mhm.
What's your view on this? Like, do you have any formal mindfulness sessions, or does it seem like one of these
Yeah,
cliche?
yeah. No, I've done a ton of mindfulness, quote unquote, stuff, and meditating, hypnotherapy. I've done tons of mental training, and for years and years, I would meditate daily. I should probably get back to that a little more.
Mm,
I still do it pretty fairly regularly, but not as often as I maybe should. But I think that's a huge, huge part of keeping your mind relaxed and in the game. It's
yeah,
very stressful what we do. Even not fighting, I mean, it can be very stressful, but fighting itself is obviously like very stressful, and we need to clear those thoughts out. And I think we could be our own worst enemies, right? We can get our own heads a lot. So
yeah.
we need to learn to handle those emotions well.
Mm.
And obviously, like visualization, with the meditation type stuff is always good. I mean, that's proven scientifically and non-scientifically, and you can kind of manifest, so to speak, what you see in your head. So I think it could be very powerful. So definitely a lot of that. And um, yeah, I think is yeah, and then the hypnosis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all good stuff. Like I don't think it's ever bad to put good stuff in your brain, right? So it's like
No, definitely not.
even if it's not like the best, most efficient, perfect thing that you could be doing, um, you're not doing anything bad. You're not hurting anything. That's for sure.
No, definitely not. No, like mindful breathing and meditation, you talked about the science, it activates the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest. So if you already have like an overactive baseline, it just relaxes it a bit. It's like a bottom up approach.
Yeah,
Instead of making like a mindset shift, like a lot of work, something as simple as just meditating, it gets you into that state directly.
yeah, absolutely. And I think the breathing does like doing the breath work and learning that stuff. I think is very, very powerful.
Hmm.
Even outside of doing it within the meditation,
Yeah,
just doing it on the regular, just keeping yourself breathing and learning how to breathe properly and learn how to relax your body. And obviously, when you're doing athletics, anything you need to be cognizant of your breath and taking care of it and doing whatever the proper breathing might be for that
of course.
movement or activity. Um, yeah, I mean that's like the breath is a game changer. It can be a total game changer for your life.
Yeah. And you were talking about, I think, emotions before. One question I had when it comes to fighting, like anger, animosity, this is also something that's very mixed. Some people say it fuels them, it makes them fight better. Others say no, it blocks out your rational, cognitive thinking parts. Like, how did you deal with this? Like, did you use it, or did you find reasons to have animosity towards opponents, or?
No, I think like early in my career, like as an amateur, I kind of did that a little bit. Like I would try to find anger, or be angry at him, or whatever, and maybe even a little bit early in my professional career. But um, not, I never really thought about that too much. It was just kind of natural, but I didn't really think about it, and I don't. I think it can be a useful thing though, like to bring emotions into the sport when necessary, but it needs to be controlled,
Mm.
because it can be a negative thing or it can be a positive thing. Like some people like they need more emotion, and I've had fights where like I needed more emotion. Then I've had fights where I needed less. So I do think there's a balance, but yeah, absolutely. Learning how to control it is important, though. I think, and learning when to use it to your advantage, winning and learning when to not use it, and I think the highest level of fighting is able to fight without emotion.
Yeah,
But there may be times like along that journey to get there where you need to draw into some emotion,
yeah,
right? But I think if you to be the absolute highest performer in the world ever, I think that you need to be able to control the emotion out of it.
mm. Yeah, I mean, someone like it's very mixed. I think Michael Jordan, he used to like find reasons to like establish antagonism or something with his opponents. Like he would find small reasons that would be very trivial, but he would make them a big deal or something to
Right.
fuel him or whatever. And I was thinking of,
Yeah. No,
the tough house when someone like did something to your tobacco or something. What was the guy's name? Like, was that something that
Jeremy
made you
Nugent.
angry? Or
It not really, a little bit, but that's actually a good point because that was actually one of the times that, um, well, I think the emotions were. I should have taken him out. Like it actually worked against me because I don't think I fought him as well as I would have without the emotions. Um, I kind of I'm not gonna say I played up for TV, but like I was definitely like upset at him. I was angry, but there was like a way more to it than what they showed on TV. Like,
Mm.
but like I never talked to the guy before, and it was early on the show, and we'd already planned on me fighting him. Like we'd already strategized that I was going to be fighting him, and and then he did that.
Mm.
So we put all those things together. Then I was like, all right, well, fuck this guy. But when I came home, like my friends did the same prank to me all the time. And I wasn't upset at all, right? Like we are laughing about it, and
Yeah, but you
and I
had
would do
that
it.
kind of vibe together, like you told him, like we don't know each other.
Exactly,
Like, yeah.
exactly. So that's why like I wasn't like truly angry about like just the prank itself, but it was more like the vibe and like um but I also the last thing I'll say on that was like it was very early on in the show, and I'd watched the previous seasons, right? And I seen like pranks they'd pull on people and shit. And I've been to jail many times, so this essentially like a jail, right? Like you're with like 16 people for 6 weeks in a house, right?
Mm.
So I was like, okay, I'm not going to be the sheep getting fucked up by all these wolves. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm gonna let them know pretty straight on, like you're not fucking with me. So there was all those little pieces kind of played a role in that. Um, but what I did was I tried to use that emotion to fight him, and
Mm.
and again, this was one of those lessons I learned where like I fought him way worse with the emotion, and I would have fought better minus the emotion, I believe. So that was again, it was just a lesson learned and move on. And I think that was actually probably a big turning point right there where I really didn't fight emotionally much after that.
Aha, interesting. Yeah, like I think for us outside observers, we really underestimate, the psychological warfare of the entire process, however you want to put it, like the
Yeah.
things that happen before the match, like the build up and antagonism and I don't know, bluffing, not bluffing. It's like the savannahs of Africa in a way. I don't know, like a jungle in a way.
Yeah. And I mean like they used Michael Jordan as an example, and like Michael Jordan played basketball. So I I don't want to disrespect anybody or anything, but it doesn't compare to fighting.
No,
You know,
no, of
so,
course not. Of course
so yeah, so fuck Michael Jordan, whatever. Yeah, there, I will disrespect him, whatever. Fuck him. In a fight, I mean, we've seen where emotions can ruin a guy's career. Jose Aldo, Conor
Yeah,
McGregor, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
perfect.
that's what Conor was the best at, right? Getting people's emotions riled up, right? But then when he got his ass kicked and his emotions get riled up, and then it's a bad look for him, right?
Yeah,
So we see both sides of it. That's why I was blessed with stoicism. I'm like, well, I might as well use that shit. Like I'm good at staying unemotional about things. I might as well use it and just not get emotional about shit. So it's like win, lose, draw. Like still wake up tomorrow and my kids still love me and everything's still good. Um, if I lose, like they still love me and my life's still good. If I win, I'm not a hero to them more than I was the day before. So
yeah.
it's like the same day no matter what. Like the sun's still going to come up, and I still got to get up and brush my teeth and do what I got to do. So
I was talking to this back surgeon last time, and he told me like when you are in a, let's say, vengeful or angry state or whatever, there are certain regions in your prefrontal cortex that are responsible for the like logical thinking. They literally turn offline, meaning that you could
yeah.
be the most technical fighter in the world, the most skilled, done through all the drills, but then you're gonna start swinging because it's offline.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, and I believe that. um so yeah, so I think it's better to be avoided, right? Just stay relaxed and chill and enjoy, embrace the moment, man, and
Mm.
embrace what you're doing and have fun with it and be gracious that you get to do it. I think that's a big lost part of fighting, something I wish I would have embraced a lot earlier on, man. Just be gracious because, it's something that it's a beautiful thing that we get to do this, and especially on the big stage like I got to. And, it's not something that you have to do, it's something you get to do. So you should enjoy it. And Um, yeah.